Hey, it's Tara Thomas Getman, another LIFTu live stream interview, a really unique and interesting one this week, I might add, because it's Mike Whitson and Monica Lee. They are co-workers of mine here at Lyft, and they have such unique work experiences that go even beyond their current work that we'll talk about. Monica Lee is a user experience or UX researcher with us here, and the chief research scientist is joining us as well, Mike Whitson, who's leading our team of researchers. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, what is the driving force behind not just the popularity of sort of data mining, but is it that, the internet and all the digital side of things really upped everybody's game? I mean, kind of speak to the history of how this whole data mining has completely gone gangbusters in recent years.
Well, I think that's accelerated things, but I think originally it really has come down to just trying to understand what's actually happening, right? We have all these experiences of things going on around us, but it's difficult for us to really perceive what's happening, what people are thinking or expecting or preferring. And so that's what we're doing with our research is really diving into the human experience and trying to understand what it is they want or what are they experiencing and helping our customers then deeply understand from their customers perspectives or their target audience exactly how they should talk to them and how they should provide services that really resonate with them. That's what it's all about. It's people.
Monica, you had talked at one point about going into pre-med and pursuing a medical opportunity career-wise. How did you land into the world of data analytics and now user experience?
Yeah, so it wasn't like a choice that I was actively like really thrilled about, but I just kind of resigned like it's kind of my fallback or what my parents wanted more for me. It was happened across like the whole user research realm a bit by accident while I was applying for ended up getting into my major a little earlier than anticipated. And at that time of like UX design, UX research was still pretty young, or at least college. And back then, if you like the terms like user experience, UX, like UX design and research, like if you went up to someone on campus, which wasn't even that long ago now that I think about it, what I was talking about. And hey, what major are you in? They wouldn't understand, and they'll be like, oh, is that kind of related to science? And I'm like, sure, we'll go with that. Um, but yeah, so I guess it's just like the technical side of things, and I always want to do something with like computers or computers, and just something that would match well with like my preferred mindset or how I generally work best. So like inner type. So if we go on a trip anywhere with like usually default to me as the one who like puts together the itinerary for places to visit and what times they open and whatnot, because I guess I'm just good at that kind of stuff naturally. So the typical type of work that you come across with like the UX that overlaps pretty nicely with like what I'm pretty good at, I think. So
I
yeah.
love that. That's perfect that you're able to apply it in your personal life as well. And being detail oriented is exactly what our clients want from the research team because you guys are able to uncover so many nuggets that impact and inform how they move forward to drive productivity and obviously a revenue boost thanks to all of your insights. Mike, you have an interesting story. At one time, a firefighter, now turned data scientist. How did that transformation come about?
It was time for me to leave as a firefighter, and I realized now that I look back at it in the past. As a firefighter, what really appealed to me is one, working with and helping people, and two, the other thing that's really appealing is you have to be kind of good at a lot of things. You have to be able to run equipment. You have to understand chemistry, medical, electrical, plumbing, building. You have to be kind of a jack of all trades. Not surprisingly, research is the same way. I found another career where you need to know a lot about many different things and be able to apply them each in their own time when they need to be applied. So you have to be that Swiss Army knife, just like it was with firefighting. So I really kind of fell into that. I originally went back to college and getting, graduate degrees. I was looking to be a psychologist and a therapist. And fortunately, one of my professors said, you're not very empathetic when you're trying to help people who are having problems. You tend to, rather than hand them the tissue, you would throw the box at them. But you're really good at you're really good at research. You should stick with that. Best advice I ever got. So that really panned out well for me, and I've been doing this ever since. And it's every bit as fulfilling, and being able to help our clients and people and interacting and working with people. That's what data is really all about when you distill it down to its essence. Though everybody thinks data is impersonal, it's all based on people. So boom, there you go. I love it.
That's such a great point. Behind all of the numbers, the research results, so to speak, people are driving the brands and the experience, and you guys are able to cull everything into very usable and tangible ways that data can transform a business. So I love that you both have a unique passion in your personal life that applies to your professional sphere. If you're just joining us, I'm Tara Thomas Getman. We are LIFTu Live weekly podcast this week with guests who are coworkers at Lyft. Monica Lee, she is a UX or user experience researcher hailing from the Seattle area. And we should mention your alma mater is University of Washington, where she studied this work. And Mike Whitson, a Midwestern former firefighter, now chief research scientist with Lyft. Monica, when someone comes to our team, our researchers, and says, we know there is data out there that can help us, that can truly benefit our company, what are the next steps for somebody that's completely new to this user experience concept? How do we give them sort of that menu of options and determine which type of research is best to fit their needs?
I think typically the next major step that we would take is like kind of helping them flesh out like what are they trying to learn exactly. It's like they're learning what they want to glean from the research, and then depending on what those are, we would kind of compare and contrast and see like which research method would be most appropriate for answering those questions. If there might be certain learning objectives that are more appropriately answered by like a survey format, and maybe require like a more face-to-face interview style. Yeah, essentially just having like a conversation with the clients and seeing what they're trying to learn.
Mike, what is the timeline? How long from start to finish when you're working with a client? Does it depend on, all of the layers to a project, or kind of walk us through that process?
That's a very complicated question, Tara, and it's changed over time. So let me try to unpack that. It kind of depends. Typically, if we're talking market research, branding research, those can essentially, a typical research project would take somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks to really dig in deeply and come up with not only the insights of that the data tells us, but then to understand what does it mean to the client, why should they care, and then what are the specific recommendations. That's where we're very focused on developing recommendations they can take action on. We are not the type of research team that says, here's the percentages and the results and how many times somebody said something. Good luck. Let us know how it goes. We're the type of research team that says, here's what happened, and now here's specifically what we recommend you do. So that's 4 to 6 weeks. What we've seen though over the last 5, 6, 7 years is the pace of this type of research has accelerated tremendously. We're now doing what we call research sprints that are doing a complete project in 3 weeks from beginning to
Wow.
Monica tends to lead most of those. It's grueling, exhausting, and really hard to do. You cannot do it back to back to back all the time. But we tend to do that when we're working with a design team, particularly web page design or some type of product design, where they're iterating changes very, very quickly. And the research has to keep pace with the design. Otherwise, it's not going to help. It's out of date immediately. And so we used to take our normal 4 to 6 weeks, and the design team had already moved on. And now that we realized and tried to develop a way to match that pace, now we have our clients who are really taking full advantage of research to inform their iterative designs of whether it's web pages or whatever you have it. It's been a game changer for us. Unfold the Swiss Army knife, right? Use each of those components that you need as quickly as possible. That's really how we apply it.
I love how you explain that. And what people then don't realize is how much goes into the end user experience, because you are really helping determine what does or doesn't work. And these are changes that are happening instantly. And as you describe, in an intense environment where so many decisions, very small decisions that would have big impacts, have to be made with a short turnaround. So, Monica, how does that feel when you are able to deliver those insights that can convince somebody when they need to know today, how their product is going to be received? How does it feel to really help drive what ultimately gets into the hands of, the user on their cell phone when they pull up that app?
You summarized it pretty well, actually, because it's always cool to see like your impact, um, like actually you can see it active in the real world. So, back in college when you do like group projects or whatever, it's very like hypothetical, like it's not actually like becoming like a real product, maybe unless it's like a final big capstone project. But I guess with the projects that we've done with like Salesforce or whatever, you see live on their website like some of the changes that they've implemented, and then I can show it to like my, hey, like they made this design change based on like a recommendation that we did from a previous study, and you can just being able to actually point to it and have something tangible to show as a result of the research as well.
No, I love that. And it is true that you'll have an immediate impact on everything that most researchers, perhaps in some fields, like say medical science, might feel that, it would take 7 to 10 years or more before any of their work is impactful or realized. But in the case of you guys, I mean, hearing that a 3-week timeline might come into play is amazing. To have that instant gratification that your work is truly being felt. I love that. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Mike Whitson. He is a chief research scientist for us here at LIFT, and Monica Lee. She is a UX researcher specifically focusing on that customer experience and that user design that is so, or how did you word some of the other terminology around it, Monica? I want to make sure I get the terms correct for those that are in the field.
We generally got it spot on. So like
Design, what?
around the customer experience, user experience.
Yeah. And that whole field is growing tremendously. And so the fact that research is such a huge component of it is great for our purposes, because when you think of how wide a net LIFT has cast, I know we've helped everybody from banks to a food bank, and then major technology companies that are rolling out apps that are going to reach, global audiences. Mike, what is it that stands out in your mind if you think about an example, without naming names, of a company or a situation where you really felt like, hey, we've changed the game for them?
Yeah, and I'd have to point out too, I think it doesn't have to be a Fortune 100 company to be gratifying work. Some of the smallest clients we've ever had have, that's even more impactful, right? Because the stakes are super high. So I would say we just recently, and Monica led this project brilliantly. We just completed a project that was the foundational work of a brand new app that was going to be the primary app of a global software provider. So the stakes were incredibly high, hundreds of millions of dollars at stake as to what direction should this customer experience and learning experience app take. A foundational pivotal point and where they're headed in the next 5 years. Monica's research identified what were the target audiences who would be using this. What did they prefer? What did they expect? How much of it? One of the arguments amongst the teams of our client was, should this app be, it does one thing really well, and then there's another app that does the next thing really well? or should it be one app that includes all of these things? And how, if that's true, what should it include and how should it be organized? Monica and her research identified it should be a unified app. It should include these types of things, and here's how it should be organized. Some very high level senior leadership didn't agree with that with our client, asked for us to kind of do another presentation and walk through the results, which again, Monica did brilliantly. And in the end, they followed her recommendations. She drove a multi hundreds of millions of dollar project, and they're following her recommendations, which is incredible. Or you move to another client, just a local bank who's just trying to reach out to their customers and not say, hey, we're your hometown bank like every other hometown bank says. How can we reach them in a way that resonates? That type of research we do, that we help them identify kind of some new ways to talk about themselves, some new catchphrases that would actually stand out amongst all of the banking noise when you're talking advertising. And in the end, they've grown themselves 30 and 40% and have developed a reputation as kind of a leader in the new banking technology in their area. And that's incredibly fun too. So we have all of those little success stories that really kind of make it worthwhile for all of us.
Absolutely. We had the honor in one of our previous LIFTu live interviews of speaking to the marketing VP at one of the companies you're referring to. And he said, when you take those details, the report, all of the results of the work that you and your team are doing, when you have the hard, cold numbers that you put forth to the company management, I mean, it's hard to argue with the data. It really shows and proves, what not only the consumer wants, but obviously in the case of Monica, how they want to interact with your product. And so I love that you had that win, because here's somebody in your case who never probably dreamed that, coming out of such an interesting major in college, you would now be influencing, like Mike said, those $100 million plus decisions that somebody sitting in a chair that has the authority to make them, is now relying upon your research to see it through. I love that. How does it feel, Monica, to now have that same conversation that you said years ago when you were in college, not that many years ago when you were in college, and people were saying, like, what do you mean? What's user experience? Like, are people now getting it? And are we catching on to a field that is not just growing, but is now becoming essential for so many businesses, like Mike said, regardless of the size, because you really need that information to best inform your decisions?
It's been cool to see, I guess, like the whole user experience getting the recognition that it deserved. Better late than. It's kind of a shame that it took this long for a lot of companies to reach. I guess just in that short time span, having the industry kind of go from being relatively unrecognized, people in a lot of companies. It's like, as you said, people are the impact and importance of helping products being used by people, making design it based on informed decisions rather than. The analogy I like using is that if you don't base it on like actual data about what people want, expect, and tailoring it to your audience's needs, it's like you're putting someone in a blindfold, spinning them in a circle, and saying, okay, now throw the dart.
Exactly. No, that's so true, because if you're spending that much money, no matter how big or small your operation, you want to make sure your dollar counts. You maximize every dollar being spent. And so how wonderful that Lyft can deliver all of those actionable insights to ensure that you're making the right investment before you pull the trigger, so to speak. Mike, talk about what a person out there, thinking about this needs to know to truly reach out, make that decision, and work with a company like Lyft to get that research. Why should they give us a call and engage with our researchers to not only maximize, their profits, but essentially help guide their future company moves?
Well, I guess I would start with some research is better than no research. So research doesn't have to be large, complicated, or expensive. It can be very modest. We have a lot of our clients who actually after they've worked with us a little bit, actually start their own internal research teams. And we consult with those teams. We help them as they grow and develop. So I would say that, in general, we always, in the beginning, we're trying to explain what was user experience research. We don't have to do that very much anymore. Now it's all about, let us help you understand what are the different methodologies we can use and how those can drive actually getting to the root of what are the feelings, the expectations, and the preferences of your target audiences or your clients or customers, and really beginning to understand those deeply. We get to do the nerdy stuff then. We get to identify what are those things. When do we use the fancy things like eye tracking research, sentiment analysis, machine learning to analyze the data, the things that Monica and I deeply love to do, and those all inform. But it can be as simple as just talking to some customers. You could talk to 5 of your customers, ask them some questions, and learn so much about how you could tweak or improve whatever it is you're doing. Uh, all the way up to these large, extremely complicated projects. So again, any type of research is going to help you better understand from the perspective of your target audience what you should be doing or how you should be moving forward. The biggest hazard we typically see is the internal echo chamber. You have design teams and technical experts who are creating things that in their minds, who wouldn't understand this? Why wouldn't this be super easy to understand? But you're the experts. You know this so deeply that you're inherently jumping to conclusions that people who are absolutely new to whatever it is you're doing will have no idea what you're doing or what this is about. Our job is to get them out of the echo chambers and hear the voice of the customer and be able to understand from that perspective, how should they move forward?
Oh, I love that. That is so true because especially internally speaking, when you're working on products and services, you're too close to it. And so with our researchers, you guys can come in and you can really give them that, not just the outside perspective, but the real time reaction and perspective and engagement of that future customer that is the most important opinion ultimately in that process. Mike and Monica are among the research team with Mike at the helm. And I should mention that our company is also unique in that for those clients who work with us, they don't, we don't farm them out to some other group of people. They would actually get to engage directly with you, Mike and Monica. And I think that that says something about, the people that are behind our product in terms of research. You guys really do have and build those one-on-one relationships with the clients and really give them that sort of personal touch. In the end, Monica, did your parents and all your friends say you were actually smart to pursue this world of user experience? What was their reaction?
I can't wait to hear the
Yeah.
answer to this.
After, I guess, is this the right UX? Like, I've noticed that it's become kind of main for a lot of people who are in my year. They've actually pivoted their careers from like to like design or like computers, and they've transitioned to like become UX designers, project dabbling into research. So I think like my friends still say like, okay, you were like ahead of the curve. And my parents
Absolutely.
they're super familiar with like tech, but they just know like I do something with computers, something like you seem happy in what you do, so we'll support you in that. So
That's great. That's great. And bonus, you get to work virtually, so you don't have to deal with a lot of traffic and long commutes. So that's a bonus. Mike, what about you when you run into your firefighter buddies and you tell them what you're doing? What's their reaction?
Yeah, I think in the beginning they were all very surprised of, I chose to go back to college as a very non-traditional student and get more degrees and whatnot. But I think over time, I think they've all come to realize that how interesting this really is, and that, you know, these second and third careers can be incredibly fulfilling. And I've been lucky enough to be able to pursue that. When I was working as a firefighter, I always wanted to go back to school. I was fascinated by neuroscience, and I wanted to go back for that, even if I wasn't going to use it. And my wife finally convinced me that the time is right. You should really, really go after this. And I'm so glad she did. It's her fault basically. I'm so glad
No,
that
I love that.
yeah.
And I love that you shared that because that's so true. Any and all career pivots can be a complete contrast, perhaps, from
Right.
what we previously did. And I love that you mentioned eye tracking because when people think of the concept of eye tracking research, I mean, it sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of those like futuristic films, right? But there truly is a way that our research can look at the movements of your eyes on a screen to determine, what jumps out at you and what are you drawn to? And so I think it's such a critical and fascinating concept because it's definitely not one, anyone could do on their own when they're sitting around a table poring over marketing charts. It's
Right.
much more complex.
And it really started off, that's our claim to fame. We're really kind of set the standard, our experts in using eye tracking to research anything that's in marketing or brand health. And what's so interesting about eye tracking research is you can know specifically what people are looking at, what they're ignoring, we can identify with algorithms when they become confused versus like an aha moment of understanding. We can actually detect those in real time. And so it helps us cut through the clutter when we interview folks. They're not entirely sure if they looked at something or not, or if they understood it. Eye tracking helps us very precisely know the truth to that. It's not that they're disingenuous. Our brains are lazy and we simply don't remember or notice those things we might have looked at or ignored. It's not our fault. Our brains are inherently lazy because we consume more calories than anything else in our body. So it does as little as possible. It's the teenager in the basement doesn't want to do anything until you force it to. And so we have all those different tools to help measure what's going on with the brain. That's really kind of the magic work of this type of research. And we really enjoy it when it's applicable, but it's not applicable for all projects. So again, we like that Swiss Army knife approach of using whatever tools are needed, but no more than that, right? Just using what's necessary and really having an understanding of, now we call them learning journeys or purchasing journeys. People journey through understanding a product or a website and the types of services that can be available. Understanding those journeys, that's what it's all about now. And so all of our research is geared at that. And once you clearly understand what those journeys are and how to effectively lead them through those, that's a win every time.
Absolutely. And you both have been so gracious to take away your research time to share with us such valuable insight into this world of everything qualitative and quantitative data that, as you described, Mike, can be as simplistic as doing a short-term, small scope research project or something that's, a years long deep dive into a journey that will be well worth the time if you ultimately deliver on something that you put so much money into in the way that the consumer wants to receive it. So I appreciate you both sharing all of these insights. And what is the best way that somebody watching could get a hold of us to determine which research is best for them? Should they go to our website? I mean, how do you guys get referrals? Kind of talk about that process.
We get referrals through the website quite often. I guess we're fortunate too that the majority of our clients are repeat clients. So we get referrals from current clients to other companies who they are peers with or know. So we get a lot of referrals, but generally the easiest way to get a hold of us is through the website. And then somebody will reach out, usually within the same day, if not the next day at the latest.
LIFTinnovate.com, we should mention, is where to go. And Mike's avatar is on there if you want to see if you want to see firsthand the face behind the work. He is, as we mentioned, the chief research scientist, and Monica Lee, as well as a UX researcher, and their team would be happy to serve your needs. And whatever form of research takes shape, they are the experts in being able to determine which type would be right for you to best serve your needs. So thank you guys both so much for sharing and letting me get personal with both of you for this interview.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.